Katrina, we're going to get started now for you. So I'm going to start with some immune system. Actually, I'll ask your body, but anyway, let's see what happens. Blakey?
Yes, just a thin one. It's cold in the house, but it's nice outside.
Yeah, right. Sunshine. Yeah, I've got to go drop something off for Greg afterwards.
Greg Hawkins?
Yeah.
Oh, shall I do it? I'm that way anyway.
Yeah, right.
Chat with you?
Oh, no, not at all. I usually knock and he tells me about shenanigans going on in the neighbourhood, but you know. Okay, so, well, that would be awesome. Okay, are we in? Okay, is there anything else we need to put into circuit before we start working on Katrina? No. Good. So where do we want to start today? With the adrenals, with survival, with deep survival, with hidden deep survival, with the celestial circuit, with any physical manifestations. Okay, so we're going to go into the immune system. So I'm just going to start from the beginning of my little protocol and just see where it lands, and then I'm sure there'll be survival stuff in relation to all of that. So let's just firstly get in there and see whether your immune system's up and running in the clear. Beautiful. Okay, so in relation to biofilms and mucoid plaque, and hold, 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 hold. Okay, so there are some biofilms in the body that are holding old infections. David Nixon popped in over the weekend and I was showing him some of the live blood screenings I did last week, and one of the things he said, well, he thought it was biofilms in the blood. So biofilms like hold old infections, they can hold heavy metals, they can hold toxins.
Yeah.
So, and then they create localized inflammation.
Is it like a fibrous thing or biofilm? Is it like a
It's like mucus.
Oh, it's a mucus.
Yeah. And it can be so small, it can be inside the mitochondria. It can be large and on the inside of the bowel, blocking sort of digestion and absorption and stuff. It can be so tiny that it can build up on nerves and like we can end up having it on the mucous membranes in our throat or in the sinuses, in the lungs. Biofilm and mucoid plaques. Hold. Hold, 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 hold. Okay. Right. It's also saying that there's been some microbiome degradation because of some reason. So something messing with the microbiome in the gut. And hold. Although I say in the gut, but we've got separate microbiomes around the place. We've got separate ones in the sinuses, separate ones in the throat, separate ones in the lungs, separate ones in the bowel and the reproductive organs. So we've got different microbiomes around the body based on different groups of microorganisms. New Metagenics have just released a new one for the female reproductive tract. And I think part of that issue is that kids aren't being born naturally a lot of the time these days. There's so many cesarean births and things like that. Okay, in relation to any and all issues with the thymus gland, communicating with the immune system. And hold, hold. Well, we haven't gone here before, Katrina, so this is sort of interesting because lots of stuff is showing up. So this is a big immune boost today. So everything you can do on the other end just to support yourself, you know, plenty of sunshine, vitamin D, even the B12 that we've been chatting about. B12 helps to stimulate new stem cells from the bone marrow in big enough doses, and it also helps to protect the telomeres on the end of our genetic coding.
B12.
Yeah, in big enough doses, yeah. But it's very much a nervine, you know, it protects the nerves. Let's just ask about bacteria and bacterial particles. And hold, 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 hold. Whole page of those, just double check. Okay. And there's a whole bunch involved in infertility and chronic abdominal issues. They're not showing up. There's a million reasons for inflammatory disorders in the body. So medically, of course, they love the answer to always be bacteria and viruses because then they can prescribe drugs. But there's a million other causes. You know, so just checking things like E. coli and gonorrhea and salmonella and campylobacter, they're not showing up, you know, these most common ones. Okay, so Candida and Candida particles. So far there's been no energy mismatches, so your body is recognizing all of these, just doesn't like them, or doesn't have a program to deal with them. Candida and Candida particles. And something I heard over the weekend as well, which was about gluten. So you know how with the Codex agreement, 170 countries have agreed that they will use pesticides or herbicides or mRNA or vaccinations or any method to make sure that nothing dangerous will grow on foods when it's going across borders around the world. So what that means is that food has to be really dead before it can go anywhere in the world. But it wasn't until 2006, even though they knew that glyphosate, which is the main pesticide used in the world by a long shot, they did not know until they did not start using it on 2006 at the end of wheat production. So after they'd picked the wheat, then they spray an extra layer of glyphosate on it to stop funguses and molds from growing. Now, there's a particular strain of Candida showing up. Candida tropicalis. And hold. 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 Yeah, right, it's hot over there at the moment, isn't it? So tropicalis tends to grow in warm, moist environments. And of course it loves a gut that does that too. And you know, with when we've had lots of antibiotics in the past, you know, that has often destroyed the little villi in the intestines. If we don't have the villi, if we don't have the home for the microbiome to grow, then it can really mess with our ability to have a space where good bacteria grow. So our microbiome, sometimes its home has been destroyed. Okay. There's another little Candida that grows in a different microbiome area. It's not bad, but not great. And then because of the neurological side of it, I'm going to check in relation to cell defense mechanisms, so cell danger responses. So is your, okay. No, that's not showing up. Good. And let's just ask about cellular differentiation. Okay, so something called a circulating immune complexes are showing up. So this is when substances haven't been broken down as well as they should be, so the immune system's really working overtime on particles that really should have been destroyed in the gut. So it can get into the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, and this is the sort of thing that can cause pelvic inflammatory disease. So, because once again, science is only looking for infections, because infections, you know, they suit the model, that disease model. Okay. Then there's also something called CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Once again, the model tends to look at lots of viruses and bacteria and things like that. But there's also things like, yeah, right, there's an energy mismatch to chronic inflammatory responses. So the body doesn't know what to do with it. So sometimes the body will just allow inflammation because it doesn't have a process or a program to deal with it. Yeah, right, interesting. So on here, because, you know, the things that natural therapies always look at with CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome or chronic inflammatory respiratory syndrome, depending on where you read it, it's more molds and toxins and dusts and pollutants like that. And when you're looking at things like dust, about 50% of dust can be fungal, sort of, you know, so and molds, because they're in the atmosphere, they're in the environment. If our body isn't able to detox those things properly, then they can build up in the tissues and create low-level chronic inflammation. So let's just say there was an energy mismatch to CIRS. So let's ask in relation to mold and mold spores. And hold. Hold. Are you warm enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Mold and mold spores.
What chemicals are the Sharpies made out of?
Yeah, right.
I
No.
smell it quite strongly.
Yeah, right. No, all sorts of horrible stuff. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's just, you know, throw that one in the nasal cavities. Yeah, because so many people, I don't know if this is you, Katrina, but so many people can't walk through that smelly aisle at the supermarket with all of the cleaners and that sort of thing. Yeah, your body did not like whatever chemicals are in the Sharpie.
All the cat and dog food stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, but it's, you know, there's just so many smells, and it's an assault for people who just can't cope.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, I've got a whole bunch of dental infections here I'm going to check for you. So actually, first let's ask in relation to any and all dental inflammation. Hold. Okay, so there's an energy mismatch to something going on in the jaw with the teeth. Okay, any and all dental infections. Hold. 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 How's Roy's jaw going?
It's doing good.
Yeah, nice.
He's rubbing it at least twice a day with the gel.
Yeah?
Sean found that his neck was out a little bit,
Oh, yeah?
so his muscles just needed a bit of work, just to help realign and everything.
Nice. Yeah, one of our clients has for something that happened in the last 2 years, he ended up with his infection in his jaw, and they were going to cut off all the teeth at the gum line. It seems such an odd thing. Odd. Just odd.
I think he has a couple that are artificial.
Okay.
He doesn't seem to be bothered about anything
Good.
much, so hopefully things are happening.
Excellent. So there is something going on with actually. So like do we need to see the dentist? Not yet. Okay, there's nothing saying that you need to see a dentist at this point, but there's like a subgingival plaque, so there's something going on that's holding an infection, but no specific infection is showing up for you at the moment. So it's like we need to get the body recognizing it again, so that but it's more about the plaque itself rather than any particular infection in there. Okay, so EMFs has just shown up for you. So let me let's just ask in relation to any and all electromagnetic frequencies. Any and all electromagnetic frequencies. And hold. 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 Okay. Yeah, so your immune system isn't coping with the amount of EMFs around at the moment, so I don't know if you've got some protection around your house at all. But, anything, any of the shungites, any of the wearables, any of the plug-ins that you can put into the walls to help to protect us. turning off as much stuff, making sure any smart devices. You know, we had one of those OK Googles in the house for, I don't know, a year or so, and it was sort of a bit of fun. And then we saw a 2015 episode of X-Files. So they rebooted and did a few X-Files episodes. And this particular one, everything was run by smart AI. So they went into a restaurant and Mulder got served some crap meal that he did not want. He didn't eat, he didn't, you know, but he still had to pay and he still had to give him a tip. Anyway, the whole thing, everything. And it was like self-driving cars and it was drones dropping off things, you know, running out of a hair product. And next thing a drone turns up with a hair product at the front door. You know, it was just like AI, drones, gone mad. Anyway, sort of, yeah, the whole smart thing. It's going to be a worry. It's going to be a worry for a little while until we take back the world. I heard someone say this morning that there's about 8,000 elites who run the world. So really, there's like nearly 1 million of us compared to every one of them. So hey, we should be able to take back the world if you think about it like that.
How many thousand?
8,000
Okay.
who consider themselves the ruling class.
Take them all out.
Any and all EMFs. I just thought it was an interesting number.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And I like the fact that there's 1 million more of us than them. It's empowering. Okay, so EMFs. So because EMFs has shown up, EMFs activates like Epstein-Barr virus in your system. I think I've seen that in the body scans a few times with your thing, but EBV, here in Australia certainly, you know, it's linked in with people's thyroids, it's linked in with our ability to detoxify it, but can become part of our genetic coding. They're doing some aerial spraying to protect us from malaria or cholera or something that is a combination of West Nile virus and Epstein-Barr virus. So yay. But because it can become part of our genetic coding, that's a real worry, you know, as a retrovirus. Because then it can trigger inflammatory responses, and which is why when we're detoxing we need to use that high level stuff that, you know, really rain down on everything in the body, as opposed to specific detox things like, you know, glutathione or something like that. The more bang we can get for your buck, the better. Okay, so EMFs, Epstein-Barr virus, 95% of people supposedly have had the Epstein-Barr virus at one stage or another. If it's triggered, it can activate autoimmunity, where our immune cells are actually attacking our body because your nervous system's involved. We want to make sure the nervous system, you know, is up and functional as much as possible. EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, can of course easily cross the blood-brain barrier. In fact, it doesn't even have to. It can come straight down from all the satellites and everything, go straight into through our bone and into our body. And then of course, because the blood-brain barrier is compromised with EMFs, then viruses, toxins, bacteria, anything can get into our brains. Yay. So EMFs attract histamine, so let's check your body for histamines. Really important for pelvic inflammatory disease as well. So histamines, and you know, histamines. And hold.
That's great for use, you know, especially when they're on devices every day at school. And
Absolutely, kids are on devices all the time. You know, so I've got those little protection thingies. I put it on Teddy's device and on my mobile, so anytime he's picking up mine.
Yeah.
I'm still limiting that effect, but yeah, how many classrooms at school have got 30 devices in there or more?
every subject.
Yeah.
device that you have there? Does that
Oh,
do
that's
that?
just for mozzies. No,
Oh,
not at all. No.
What about something?
No. And then, because histamine's just checked up, let's check for MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. Hold. So EMFs, histamines build up in the gut, the brain, the uterus, and the spine, and EMFs build up in the gut, the brain, the testicles, and the spine. And because they both have a charge, they actually attract each other. So where you've got one, you'll often find the other. So then we're supposed to have a hormone called DAO, diamine oxidase, to actually help to pull out the excess histamine out of the body. So we'll see if that's working as well. But the mast cells make over 200 chemicals, which is why it's almost impossible to get diagnosed, which is why I love the bioresonance so much better, because at least it bypasses the challenges of blood tests. And, you know, so when we're seeing, you know, lots of viral load or lots of bacterial load or parasitic load, are we coming up to a full moon again soon?
Yeah.
New moon.
I think that's the weekend must have been.
Yeah, right.
So a couple of weeks will be a full moon.
Yeah, right. Histamine's MCAS as well. Okay. So the sort of things you can do when we've got excess histamines, besides diamine oxidase, like lots of vitamin C, lots of N-acetylcysteine, lots of the redox molecules, lots of quercetin, you know, so lots of things will actually help to bind excess histamines and take it back out. And the other thing is that when people have got high histamines, quite often they just do an antihistamine. So there's T helper 1, 2, and 3 cells. Basically, if we've got excess T helper 2 cells, as a general rule, we'll have lower T helper 1 cells. So we use antihistamines to suppress the T helper 2 cells. But what that doesn't do is pick up the T helper 1 cells, which have been suppressed because of the drug. So basically, T helper 1s, they're antiviral, antibacterial, antiparasitic, anti-cancer. So that's one of the reasons why people have got so much stuff going on, because we're suppressing the immune system all the time. Whereas at least things like N-acetylcysteine, vitamin C, quercetin, they also help to boost T helper 1 cells.
Doctors don't tell you that.
Pardon?
Doctors don't tell you that.
No, the doctors do not. Yeah, right, fungus and fungal spores. We did molds before, didn't we? I don't think we did. Anyway, so something else is showing up with fungus and fungal spores. What did I hear the other day? So people often use bleaches for cleaning, and bleach is great at killing the mold, but when we're breathing in, it actually kills off some of our microbiome and allows fungus to grow.
Where? Inside us?
Inside our bodies. Yeah, because we're breathing it in, so it's acting like an antimicrobial when we're breathing it in. So people who are renting houses and, you know, they've got to clean up their houses for the next tenants and things like that, and they just use a house full of bleach. Yeah. You know, some people are addicted to using bleaches in the toilet because they don't believe that a toilet's clean unless it's been bleached. You know, so people use things like that all the time.
Where's Monica?
Does she?
Well, she cleans.
I thought she used more natural stuff. I'll have to have a chat to her about it. Okay, fungus and fungal spores. So what this is doing is picking up your immune system to recognize all of this stuff. So you'll probably feel a bit flat for a couple of days, you know, so the more stuff you can do to help you detox, you know, depending on your personal makeup, but, you know, apple cider vinegar in water, or lemon juice in water, or Epsom salt baths, or washing soda baths, or salt baths, or apple cider vinegar baths, you know, anything you can do to help your body to pull the crap out that the immune system will now be recognizing. Everything's going to help. Flooding your system with a good vitamin C. But obviously let us know if anything weird happens. Yeah, so so far you must eat a bit of organic stuff. So glyphosate isn't showing up. Let me just double check. It's certainly not showing up within your immune system, which is a great thing. It might be elsewhere, and in a minute I'll pick up all of your major organs as well, because we're waking up so much in your immune system. Oh, interesting. So, okay, let me just check. In relation to Guillain-Barré syndrome. Now, I would not have thought of that with you, but now that I think about it, it's about the peripheral nervous system being attacked by some major infection or toxin or trigger. You know, there's a trigger. As a general rule, it will be because of some sort of pharmaceutical toxic overload, but it can be any trauma that can trigger it as well. Or maybe, you know, there might have been some latent toxins that were being dealt with okay, because, you know, we've got a happy life and, you know, stuff is going along. And then when we have something that creates a PTSD in the system, and our immune system loses the ability to keep up with what's going on. So interesting, having to kick your body even recognizing that. Because that can cause muscle weakness and, you know, upset our ability to walk steadily and cause all sorts of lower back pains and tingling in the hands, nose, and extremities.
What is it called?
Guillain-Barré syndrome. Yeah, it can cause some paralysis. So basically, it's an autoimmune attack on the nervous system. I had a boy with it about 15 years ago. Oh, yeah, right. Huh. I just think I realised what triggered it. I think it was when they started doing the, for him, you know, I think it's quite rare in young men, but it was when they started doing the, you know, the cervical cancer vaccines for boys. Yeah, about 15 years ago. And it's known to affect about 1 in a million kids. Okay, so what's interesting with the histamine, Katrina, is that it's not showing up that you need a low histamine diet. You need to more access or activate the DAO in your body. So, firstly, I'm going to check your stomach muscles, the pec major clavicular, and your small intestines, the quadriceps. Just make sure they're up and running, and then we'll ask them in relation to histamines, EMFs, and DAO. Okay, so hold. Bend the leg and hold up for me. And hold up. Beautiful. Okay, so in relation to in relation to histamines. And hold. Okay. Hold. And hold up. Hold up. Okay, so not optimal. So histamines are messing with your stomach and your small intestine. So if your gut isn't working well in relation to histamines, then they're going to build up somewhere in the system. So this is just your stomach and small intestine not even having a great process to deal with excess histamines, or histamines in general anyway. And hold. Beautiful. Okay, so histamines. Now we'll ask around EMFs. And hold. And obviously I could check lots of other areas, but I'm particularly interested in the DAO, the diamine oxidase. Hold. Yeah. So same again, EMFs, stomach and small intestine aren't particularly dealing with them very, very well. Tickly spot?
That was nice, actually.
EMFs. Hold. And hold. And hold. Beautiful. And so then DAO. So in relation to optimal levels of diamine oxidase. And hold. Hold. And hold. Hold. Yeah, so more stomach, then small intestines. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's also check stomach and small intestine in relation to MCAS, the mast cell activation syndrome. And hold. Hold. No. So I've already done the immune system to it. And you can imagine 90% of immunity is in the gut. So making sure that the small intestine, stomach, because, you know, we need our stomach releasing lots of hydrochloric acid and pepsin and things as well, so that we are breaking down undigested particles and viruses and bacteria, you know, killing off as much as we can, because that's what we're supposed to do. Anyway, so that's that little diversion. So there was histamine, DAO. Good. Yeah, right. So in relation to MCAS, there are histamine receptors 1, 2, 3, and 4. And, you mentioned antibiotics had destroyed your gut at one stage. So overproduction of histamine can be caused by a lack of gut bacteria and a lack of gut enzymes. So even those two can be linked, where the immune system, once again, it sort of gets into that. It's almost like autoimmunity, where it's attacking stuff that we're eating because it doesn't know what to do with it, because we don't have that innate knowledge in our immune system of the gut to help us to deal with daily things. So what has shown up is 2 of the histamine receptors as well. So now we've got to go to the histamine receptors on the cell walls. Shall I do this through the immune pathways or another pathway? Immune pathways. Okay, so firstly, in relation to H1 receptors. Hold. No. In relation to H2 receptors. H3 receptors. That was me double guessing myself. So it did say before that it was H3 and H4 receptors, and I thought I'll just double check anyway. It was right. Yeah, so so there's 4 different receptors on the cell walls. Different ones have certain links to different health issues. In relation to H3 receptors. And H4 receptors. H4 receptors. I think H3 was the worst there. Oh, right. Mycoplasma. So mycoplasma, there's a whole bunch of different types. There's at least 6 that have been aerosolized for all sorts of reasons. 6% of vaccines have mycoplasmas in them. 100% of autistic kids have got mycoplasma infections. So it's just one of these things that's a bit of a gift that keeps on giving. So, but it's about 12% of the population worldwide who actually have mycoplasma infections. Yeah, I was listening to something a few days ago there in the budget in the US at the moment that's being passed. There's just billions of dollars in relation to, well, stuff like AI, universal vaccines and AI universal, because they believe that in the next decade most wars will actually be nanotechnology wars.
It's crazy.
Just nuts. Yeah, you take out that human to human connection, it becomes very easy. Hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't even.
Yeah, right. There's also mycotoxins. I'm gonna have to stop soon because I want to get the survival stuff done in relation to this. But mycotoxins are neurological toxins that are also on foods in all sorts of medications. Anyway, we'll see what shows up. Firstly, I'll just do in relation to any and all mycotoxins. So you can see when we start really targeting specific things with the immune system, especially with the symptomatology we've got going on, it feels always like we're falling apart. But you can imagine there's millions of things out there, and we've found a dozen things. So, and the more we target down to individual little groups of things in the body, the more we can get the immune system recognizing them.
Definitely feels like a different kind of bounce
Yeah,
from the previous ones.
yeah, totally. Okay, so now I'm going to go through a whole bunch of mycotoxins and see if anything shows up. Okay, there's something called cladosporic acid. It's produced by cladospor. I think that's bacteria. Anyway, so it's produced by cladospori. But you can imagine so many of these things can just be in our food supply because there's so much genetic modification, there's so much in the air, there's so much that is in our water supply that we just don't have any control over. Yeah, it's about 8 weeks away that we'd want to do a follow-up on the immune system stuff. There's also something called Walamanol. It's produced by Walemia. It's found on cereals, pulses, dried fruit, cakes, confectionery, conserves. So it's just something that grows in some environments with a lot of dried things. There was a study done with some Iraq veterans who came home with things like chronic fatigue and chronic pain and chronic mental health disorders. And when they were having their bloods done, nothing would show up. And it was at the time when it would take like 3 days to do a complete genetic coding of the body. So back in around, 2000 sort of thing. And basically what they ended up finding was that if they spent 9 months with really, really hefty antibiotics, they could break down enough mucoid plaque and biofilms in the body to release old infections and heavy metals into the bloodstream so that they could be released. So luckily we don't want to do anything like that with you because, with kinesiology and other tools we can get there faster. But the sort of things that do help to break down biofilms are a lot of the herbal things, things like basils and gingers and chilies and licorice and, those things that we can do in the home, making sure we've got lots of herbal remedy work in our foods and in our teas and that sort of thing, because herbs have got some amazing ability to break stuff down. Prion disease is not showing up. That causes wasting away of a lot of brain tissue and nervous system issue, but that's not showing up at all. At the moment. Huh. And the SV40 and XMRV, oh no, it was you I was chatting to that are on one of the spike proteins out there, is not showing up with you. Right, the T helper 1, 2, 3, 17 imbalance is showing up. So let's just ask around optimal balance between T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. And hold. 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 Optimal balance between T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. And hold. Awesome. Okay. In relation to the balance of T helper 3 and T helper 17. So T helper 3s and T helper 17s are in the gut and they're supposed to balance the T helper 1s and T helper 2s. So when we've got too much going on and there's too much histamines and EMFs and everything, it tends to throw us out of balance. It's like with all this radiation stuff on the planet, it's messing with the sonar of sharks and whales and dolphins and things like that. So that's why so many of those are not healthy these days. Because there's all those cell towers on the ocean floor. They're being, they're having little Wi-Fi Bluetooth chips put on them so that scientists can keep an eye on them, but that's attracting the radiation from the cell towers.
What are the cell towers doing down there?
Exactly. Because they want us connected everywhere. We're not supposed to think about that sort of thing. Okay, I'm just going to ask in relation to any and all vaccine toxins. Hold. 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 Any and all vaccine toxins. And any and all PTSD trauma toxins. And hold. 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 Any and all PTSD trauma toxins. Hello. Yeah. Beautiful. See you later. That's exciting. That could be, I bought an EMF device for seeing how much,
Is around.
how toxic it is around the place and where the worst areas are. One of my clients with double breast cancer at the moment, she got one, or she hired one, and she went around her house in the area where it was mostly, was in her office where she works all the time. And then turned out she was a presenter, so she was always wearing the little Wi-Fi device on the lapel, and that was one of the areas where it was really. So if we don't know, we can't protect ourselves. And sometimes when we do know, we can't protect ourselves. Okay. So. Okay. So let's just have a think for a sec. What is the biggest bang for our buck to get the body back into balance after all of this immune system stuff? Is it the adrenals, survival switching, deep survival, hidden deep survival, the celestial circuit of 14? Okay, so we are better off doing a 14 muscle balance. So getting all of your body organs involved in this little process of healing it. So firstly, let's go central supraspinatus for the conscious brain. And hold. Hold. That's looking pretty good. So the next one is governing the teres major muscle. Chicken wing test. Hold down at the elbow. Beautiful. Hold down at the elbow. Awesome. What time of day is it? 1 o'clock. So it's small intestine time. So we'll start at small intestine time. So quadriceps, small intestines, and hold. Beautiful. And bladder, so perineus muscle. So hold your little pinky toe up. Don't let me pull down. Hold. Beautiful. And hold up. Hold. Beautiful. So, yeah, so far everything's locked so far, but there's been a whole bunch of information in there. I might just amygdalarize everything as I'm going through, Katrina, just for fun. Okay, so next one, kidney energy. So the pectineus, iliacus, and psoas. And hold up for me. Oh, hello. Hold up for me. Hold up for me. Okay, so that's kidney meridian on the right. None of those three are working. Hold. Hold, hold, yeah. So the left side's locking, the right side isn't. So that's kidneys, internalized fear and anxiety. But the kidney energy is, lymphatics. The kidney energy is very much about, the lymphatic system as well. which is why, you know, when we're doing the kidney 27 points, that's also good for the neurolymphatics, that, you know, they're master neurolymphatics of the body. And hold up, and hold, and hold. Beautiful.
You just correcting their meridian.
Yeah.
And their points.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So as I'm going through, so working through the timeline. Next one is circulation of the sex organs. I mean, I could have done a one fixed correction at the end, but because that's been a huge amount of things that we've asked the body to recognise, I figured doing each organ one by one is just a nicer way to go, and then I'll check them all with alarm points at the end. Hold out for me. Beautiful. Hold out for me. Good. So that's glute medius for the circulation of the sex organs, or the pericardium meridian. Triple heater, so that's W arms for the thyroid. Hold back for me. Good. Hold back for me. Good. Let's check your adrenals. So hold. Oh, okay. So what it has done, so all of this immune system work has stimulated your adrenals. So your adrenals are going, what are you doing to me? Okay, breathe in, breathe out and push. And breathe in, breathe out and push. And breathe in, breathe out and push. And hold, and hold. Beautiful. Okay, so gallbladder, anterior deltoid. Hold straight up. Beautiful. Hold straight up. Lovely. And then liver. So we do the 2 on each side. So the pec major sternal in the starting position, and then at 45 degrees. Hold up. Good. So at starting position, and then at 45. Beautiful. So actually your body's coping really well with this. Liver. Lungs. So we start in this position. Hold back for me. Oh, hello. And hold back. So some of that stuff may be living in your lungs. And I suppose we have done a whole bunch of stuff with molds and funguses and Epstein-Barr virus. That's often through that whole respiratory, sinus, thyroid sort of area. I wonder if when you've got your reports for the bioresonance, I wonder whether you can do that control F and look for something like Epstein-Barr virus, or whether or not, you know, so if you're looking for something specific, you can actually go, I don't know, I've never done that, but I'm just sort of wondering if you can do that with it. It would be very handy if you could when we're thinking of things. Oh, sorry, did I recheck? Hold. Beautiful. And hold. And then large intestines. Hold up for me. Lovely. Hold up for me. And then, all right, stomach. Hold them coming down and out. Hold them coming down and out. Good. And then spleen, pancreas. So latissimus dorsi coming out at the side. Hold in. Oh, okay. Hold in for me. Right, so the pancreas is unlocking, so let's also check the another one as well. Hold down for me, because the first one's to do with pancreas and this one's to do with the spleen. That one's okay. And hold down for me. Oh, that one's okay. I mean, it's funny with the pancreas, I always think of it, of course, around blood, you know, just about blood sugar. But it releases it releases some of the similar hormones to the stomach does. So things like pepsin and betaine and hydrochloride. So you can imagine if the pancreas is making all of those as well, even further down the tract after the stomach, the body has the ability to kill viruses, bacteria, molds, funguses, whatever is going on. And it could just be about, you know, excess sugar and stuff, but let's face it, 100,000 years ago we weren't doing that, or however long we've been on the planet. Who knows? Hold in for me. Hold in. And then heart, so puppet arms. So hold down at the wrist for me. Beautiful. Hold down at the wrist for me. Nice. And then we're back to small intestine. Okay. So, is there anything more we need to do to balance out this body? Okay, we can do a flower essence more for a bonus, not that because it's necessary, but just because it is a bonus. Oh, okay. So the one that's showing up, so this sort of gives me a bit of an idea about where it started again, or where this trauma kicked in. It's little flannel flower. That is for when there has been abuse and we need that energetic hug. It's an energetic hug in a bottle.
Oh, cool.
Mm. 5 drops. Yep, we can all do with it. Yeah, so a few little interesting things showing up with your immune system today. So like I say, everything you can do to really kick your immune system into action over the next days or weeks would be a good idea. Okay, even really upping your vitamin D if you've got a good source there, you know, getting out in that sunshine when you're not working. And but you know, you could easily be doing 20,000 international units of vitamin D a day, maybe even 30,000, while we're sort of trying to wake up the immune system, get rid of some of this junk out of your nervous system. How you feeling?
A bit tired.
Okay, this is a new program for this body now and in the future. The old program for this body is no longer necessary now in the future. Good, 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 good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Caity, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Ha ha ha. Oh, what's today? Is today Monday? Yes, tomorrow morning for foundations. Okay, take care. Bye, hun.